Hello and welcome to today's study. Today we'll be looking at Isaiah chapter 10. So this chapter is titled, it's split into three parts. And so out of those three parts, today we're doing two of those parts. Tomorrow we'll be doing the remaining one part. Woe to the abusers of justice. How terrible it will be for those who make unfair laws and those who write laws that make life hard for people. So here, God says that God will punish those who make unfair laws, those who make laws that make life difficult for the outcasts, for the poor, the widows, the orphans, etc. And so actually, in the previous chapter, we saw how God was so angry at the Israelites that he wasn't going to even have mercy on the orphans and the widowed, because of the sin of the nation was so great that God had to punish even the people whom he normally asks for justice for. Normally he warns those who mistreat them and treat them badly. And here there's a shift to the usual sorry. So here there's a shift to the usual quote unquote justice for the poor and widows and orphans, etc. And for the righteous, against whom the evil leaders are making, as we see here, unfair laws. So God warns them of the terrible punishment that's waiting, the terrible punishment that is waiting for them. They are not fair to the poor, and they rob my people of their rights. They allow people to steal from widows and take from orphans what really belongs to them. So as we read before, and as we discussed this impending doom is not one that can be avoided. God's judgment on Israel was not one that could be avoided. The punishment was a sure fact. God knew the extent of the hardness of their hearts and how deep in sin they were. And so Israel would have no escape from this punishment. God knew they would not repent. But even if they did, as we discussed before, they must go through this punishment. Just as silver becomes pure, just as silver becomes pure, just as silver becomes pure, only once it is purified. Sorry, I seem to be having some connection issues. Okay. So connect. Okay. Yeah, it's clear now. Thank you. So yeah, just as silver is only purified, becomes pure only once it has gone through the fire and has removed and separated the impure scum. Israel went through exile, had to go through exile, and got rid of the evil and the wicked, that is the sin that was in them. and only the righteous survived. And so they were the remnant who we'll read about in part 2. So they were the remnant, the purified, the precious silver, the precious metal, the righteous. How will you explain the things that you have done? What will you do when your destruction comes from far away? Where will you run for help? Where will you hide your riches then? So here the prophet asks the unfair lawmakers, how will you explain this time? Because so from this we can assume that previously, whenever they have made these unfair laws and made these bad decisions, that they have given excuses for them. So this time the prophet asks, Isaiah asks, how will you explain it this time? What then he goes on to say, what will you do when your punishment finally comes? Where or to whom will you go for help? Where will you hide your treasures? You will have to bow down among the captives or fall down among the dead bodies. But the Lord is still angry. His hand is still raised to strike down the people. And so this is a prophecy to show that they will be kept. Sorry. Yes. So yeah, they will have to bow down with the captives and be among the dead bodies. This is again referring to the unfair lawmakers. And so this is a prophecy to show that they will be captives and among captives, and they will have to bow down to their captors with the other captives. And many will be killed or die there and will be among the dead bodies there. But even after all this, it says the Lord is still angry. His hand is still raised to strike down the people. So this next section is called Syria will be a tour of destruction. God says how terrible it will be for the king. Sorry. O Assyria, the rod of mine. Sorry. O Assyria, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. I will send him against a hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath, I will give him a charge to take the spoil and to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mire of the streets. And so the modern version says, God says, how terrible it will be for the king of Assyria. I will use him like a rod to show my anger. In anger, I use Assyria like a club. I send it to fight against a nation that is separated from God. I am angry with those people. So I commanded Assyria to fight against them, to take their wealth from them, to trample them down like mud in the streets. So God says that he will use Assyria as a rod. And I'm sorry, I forgot to read this note before. So for this last point, as we spoke about for the unfair lawmakers, so the extent of the punishment shows how serious God is and how severe this sin is. The extent of this punishment, the severity. So in verse 5, we saw that just as a parent would correct their child with a rod, set them on the correct and righteous path, God will use Assyria as his rod to correct the nation of Israel. And so this can be seen actually in Proverbs 22 verse 15 and Proverbs 13 verse 24, where it says how how the rod is used to correct people, to correct children. Actually, I'll read 22:15 now, so that you can kind of get an idea. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. And so here actually, bound means both tied to and voluntarily wrapped up. And so, well, here foolishness from the Hebrew word evil is an innate quality that youth supposedly cling to. This can be seen in Genesis chapter 8, verse 21. And so, yeah, you can also read later. I'm not going to read it, but you can read it. Proverbs 13:24. And so, in verse 6, as we read, verse 6, Isaiah 10, verse 6, it said, I send it to fight against a nation that is separated from God. I am angry with those people, so I command Assyria to fight them, take their wealth from them. And yeah, we read this. So yeah, this which was prophesied here in verse 6 was also actually prophesied way back in chapter 8, Isaiah chapter 8, verse 1, where Isaiah's son, or the prophetess's son, was named Mahershalal Hashbaz, and which means that they will steal, they will plunder, they will take what you have, they will take the spoils. Verse 7. But Syria's king doesn't understand that I am using him. He doesn't know that he is a tool for me. He only wants to destroy other people and to defeat many nations. So here God says that the king of Assyria will be unaware that God will use him to destroy Israel. The king just wants to defeat many other nations and to expand his kingdom. And so this shows God's sovereignty, that God can use anything to work according to his plan and purpose. And even for us, as you already know from Romans 8:28, all things are work together for good for those who love God, who are called according to his purpose. You can check it up and read it yourself as well. So Romans chapter 8, verse 28. It also speaks of this, how God can use anything to work according to his plan, his perfect will and his plan. So God used the king of Assyria's own motives for his plan of judging Israel. The king of Assyria says to himself, all of my commanders, are not my princes altogether kings? The city of Calno is like the city of Carchemish. The city of Hamath is like the city of Arpad. The city of Samaria is like the city of Damascus. I defeated those kingdoms that worship idols, and those idols were more than the idols of Jerusalem and Samaria. As I defeated Samaria and her idols, I will also defeat Jerusalem and her idols. And so here, we see, since the king of Assyria was anyway going to, I read the next verse as well. When the Lord finishes doing what he planned to Mount Zion and Jerusalem, he will punish Assyria. The king of Assyria is very proud, and his pride has made him do these evil things. So God will punish him. And so Since the king of Assyria was anyway going to attack Israel to spread his territory, God will punish him. Because here it says, because his pride has made him do these evil things, God will punish him. And so God will punish him for doing this thing. But he will punish him only after God has finished using him for his purpose to work out his plan of judgment. And so if you have any questions, you can send them to me on Discord to the username is written there. And if you have any questions and you're watching this on YouTube, you can write them in the comment section below. Well, for anyone who doesn't know, the comment section is the area that's there below the video title and description. So I'm sorry I had to make this time's one short. So I'm also going to show you a schedule for the next few chapters and then for the next few sessions. So we'll be doing part 2 of chapter 10 tomorrow, which is 23rd September, and it's a Thursday. And that will also be just like this on YouTube, a pre-recorded one. In chapter 11, we'll be doing the whole thing live on the 28th of September, which is a Tuesday. Then chapter 12 on the 29th of September, which is a Wednesday. That will also be a pre-recorded one. Then chapter 13 will be on the 6th of October, which is a Wednesday. That will be a pre-recorded one. But then chapter 14 we'll be doing on the 12th of October, which is a Tuesday. We'll be doing it live. So if you notice there's a pattern here, that any YouTube live we do, I do on Tuesdays. And any YouTube premieres or pre-recorded ones are on either Wednesdays or Thursdays. And generally, if I have a YouTube live on Tuesday and then I have another session on Wednesday, that session on Wednesday is going to be short because I don't want to put another long session just after we had a long live session already. Also, live sessions generally I do for long chapters, which is why chapter 11, which is long, actually chapter 11, it has only 16 verses, but there is a lot there and there's a lot to cover there. So I'll be doing that live on the 28th of September. It's this upcoming Tuesday. And tomorrow, which is Thursday, 23rd September, we'll be doing part 2 of what I just did now, Isaiah chapter 10. We're looking at part 2 of that tomorrow. And so you don't have to get worried. That's also not that long. It's not that long. It's about 10, 15 verses, not that much. So yeah, you won't get tired of anything tomorrow. So yeah. Sorry, this should say 2. So yes, Isaiah chapter 10, part 2. There we go. Isaiah chapter 10, part 2. We'll be looking at the continuation of the Assyrian to be a tool of destruction, and a remnant shall return to the Lord, which we'll be looking at it tomorrow, Thursday, 23rd September. Yeah, there we go. Tomorrow, again, same time as today, 9:30 p.m. for IST, 4 p.m. for GMT, and 11 a.m. for EST. And after that, on the 28th of September, we're looking at Isaiah chapter 11. And that's divided into sections, a branch of Jesse and the wolf and the lamb. And so it's section not that long, but it's important. So I thought I should do this live. So this will be done next week. Again, same time, 9:30 p.m. IST, 4 p.m. GMT, and 11 a.m. EST. So please try and be there live. If not, if you can't make it for the live thing, you can watch the recording later. Even my previous sessions, you can watch the recordings of. So if you have missed all the previous sessions up to now, you can catch up by watching the previous recordings. If you missed my live session last week, about a week or two back, you can find that on YouTube live. You can find the recording of the live session on YouTube. So that's it for today. I will see you next week. Sorry, not next week, tomorrow. Sorry. So I will see you tomorrow. Or well, if you're watching the recording, then whenever you next watch the recording, when you watch the next session.